The biblical story of Queen Sarah. Sarah, originally named Sarai, is a central figure in the Bible and is known as the wife of Abraham and the mother of Isaac. Her story is one of faith, perseverance, and the fulfillment of God's promises, despite many challenges. Sarah's early life and journey. Sarah was born as Sarai, and she lived in Ur of the Chaldees, a prosperous city. She was married to Abram, later renamed Abraham, who was her half-brother, Genesis 20 verse 12. Despite being beautiful, Sarah faced a personal challenge. She was barren and had no children. When God called Abram to leave Ur and go to an unknown land, Sarah followed him without question. Genesis 12 verses 1 to 5. They journeyed to Canaan, the land promised by God to Abram's descendants. Sarah's beauty captures attention. Sarah's physical beauty is mentioned several times in the Bible. Genesis 12 verses 11 to 13 records Abraham's concern as they entered Egypt. A woman of beauty and strength, while Sarah's beauty captivated kings and nations, it was her inner strength and faith that defined her legacy. She was a woman who faced trials, doubts, and even conflict, yet she remained central to God's divine plan. Sarah's story is a reminder that true beauty is not just outward, but rooted in faith, trust, and obedience to God's promises. The covenant and God's promise. God made a covenant with Abram, promising to make him the father of many nations. Despite Sarah's barrenness, God assured them that they would have children. However, as years passed without any sign of a child, Sarah's faith was tested. At one point, Sarah suggested that Abraham have a child through her Egyptian maidservant, Hagar, Genesis 16 verses 1 to 2. This union resulted in the birth of Ishmael, but it caused tension between Sarah and Hagar. Sarah became jealous and mistreated Hagar, who fled into the wilderness. God renews his promise. Despite the birth of Ishmael, God reaffirmed his promise that Sarah herself would bear a son. At this point, God changed Sarai's name to Sarah, meaning princess or queen, signifying her future role as the mother of nations. Genesis 17 verses 15 to 16. Abraham's name was also changed from Abram to Abraham, meaning father of many nations. When Sarah overheard three visitors, angels, telling Abraham that she would have a son in her old age, she laughed in disbelief. Genesis 18 verses 10 to 12. However, the angel said, "Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Genesis 18 verse 14. 4. The birth of Isaac. As promised, Sarah conceived and gave birth to a son, Isaac, when she was 90 years old and Abraham was 100. Genesis 21 verses 1 to 3. Isaac's name means laughter, reflecting both Sarah's initial disbelief and her joy at his birth. Sarah declared, "God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me." Genesis 21 verse 6. Isaac's birth marked the fulfillment of God's promise and solidified Sarah's place in biblical history as the mother of God's chosen people. Hagar and Ishmael's departure. Despite the birth of Isaac, tension between Sarah and Hagar increased. Sarah saw Ishmael mocking Isaac and demanded that Hagar and Ishmael be sent away. Genesis 21 verses 9 to 10. Though Abraham was distressed, God instructed him to listen to Sarah, promising to make Ishmael into a great nation as well. Hagar and Ishmael were sent away, but God provided for them in the wilderness. Ishmael became the ancestor of many nations, fulfilling God's promise. Sarah's legacy. Sarah lived to be 127 years old, Genesis 23 verse 1. She passed away in Hebron, and Abraham mourned deeply for her. He purchased a burial site, the Cave of Machpelah, which became the family tomb for Sarah, Abraham, Isaac, Rebekah, Jacob, and Leah, Genesis 23 verse 19. Sarah is remembered as a woman of great faith. Despite her initial struggles and doubts, she ultimately trusted God and became the mother of the promised child. The New Testament highlights Sarah's faith. By faith, Sarah herself received power to conceive, even when she was past the age, since she considered him faithful who had promised. Hebrews 11 verse 11. Sarah's story is one of transformation, hope, and divine faithfulness. From her barren years to her miraculous motherhood, Sarah became the mother of nations and played a pivotal role in God's redemptive plan. Her legacy is a testament to the power of faith and the fulfillment of God's promises, making her one of the most influential women in biblical history.